This video explains the process for entering your weekly call volume forecast, your hourly call distribution, and using that to define a plan against which you can staff your employees. I have selected the Staff Scheduler menu item from the Excel menu, and within the ribbon in the Call Volume group, I have selected the weekly call volume forecast. You will see that it sets out a table for each day of the week in which I can enter the number of calls that I am expecting into my call center. In this particular case, I have entered 0 for Sunday since the call center is closed, and my estimates of the call volume for each of the other days of the week. Under location, I can enter the name of the location, so if I am managing multiple locations, I can create one workbook for each of those locations. Having entered these values, I can move on to the hourly call distribution. This sets out for each period of the day and each day of the week the percentage of that day's calls that are expected to arrive during that period. Notice that all of the figures are in green. This indicates that the figures for a particular day add to 100%. If, for example, I were to change this 4% to 5%, you would see the figures in that column are no longer in green until I return and correct this. This table should be established when you first start using the spreadsheet, and you may wish to review it on a monthly or quarterly basis. Generally speaking, if the pattern of call arrival does not change on a regular basis, you are unlikely to need to return to this sheet. Once we have prepared the hourly call distribution, we can move on to establishing staffing levels. Here, for each skill in our organization, we can establish the base staffing level, that is, the number of employees we will require regardless of how many calls are arriving, and the variable staffing level, that is, how many calls it takes for us to require one additional person in our call center. Now, this is obviously a very high-level approach to defining your base and variable staffing needs. If you need to be more granular about this, you can go to the Options group and select the Options item and switch from high-level planning to detailed planning. When you do so, you will be warned that you are about to overwrite any prior detailed staffing plan. Generally speaking, you'll want to respond yes. The only circumstances in which you may not want to do so is if you had previously prepared a detailed staffing plan and you are now returning to it and wish to continue using it. In this case, I am going to select yes. When I do so, the spreadsheet will do some computation and reconfiguration, and when it's complete, you will notice that in the Staffing Needs section, we now have a base staffing option and a variable staffing option. I will select the base staffing option first. Now you can see that we can control the base level of staffing we need for each role, for each period of the day, and for each day of the week. So a much finer grained control than we had in the previous setting. If I switch to the variable staffing item, there's some help here that you can read at your convenience. We can establish the levels at which we need to add additional CSRs or managers based on our hourly call volume. You can either enter these figures directly, or you can populate them using the built-in Erlang-C calculator. In the Erlang-C calculator, we enter our average call duration, our target call answer time, our service level, and our shrinkage. I'm going to change shrinkage to 15%. Shrinkage represents any lost time, for example, for breaks or other inefficiencies. We then select the role or roles that we wish this to apply to. I'm just going to select CSR and click Apply, and it will populate the table with the appropriate results from the Erlang-C calculator, and this will drive our schedule. If you wish to override any of these values, you can go in and type them in directly. So by completing the weekly call volume forecast, the hourly call distribution, and our base staffing and variable staffing, we have established a plan against which we can begin to staff our employees. Generally speaking, you will only need to change the weekly call volume forecast on a weekly basis. Your hourly call distribution and base staffing and variable staffing configuration will remain largely constant until there are significant changes in the way you wish to manage your business. That completes the overview of setting up a staffing plan based on call volume forecasts for the labour scheduling template call center version.